Hey there, macro folks. This is Mr. Hooker, and this is video number 2, chapter 1 of the macro uh, edition 23. So let's get to it. Production possibilities, an overview. So production possibilities will be your first real model. It's an economic model that shows the different combinations of two goods that an economy can produce. We have a few assumptions. Like I said before, a lot of times with assumptions, we're just hitting the easy button. We're doing like the best, easiest way we can do this. So we're assuming that we have full employment, we have fixed resources, a fixed technology. Let me explain that here. Fixed technology is what you woke up with today is what you have. So if you woke up this morning and there was no cure for cancer and they discover a cure for cancer today, you don't get it today because in the real world, you still don't get it today. If they discover a cure for cancer today, they still have to figure out a way to distribute and monetize it. So you don't get it today. You'll get it in 3 to 6 months, maybe. So it is basically, what you wake up with on that day is what you get. And that is fixed technology. So on any given day or any given time period, you have what you have. We're having two goods, and we're going to assume two consumer good and a capital good. You can do this with two unrelated consumer goods. It's bad to do this with two related consumer goods, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute. But you can technically do this with two unrelated consumer goods. It's just one of those things. All right. So here's what this looks like. Pizzas and industrial robots on the vertical, pizzas on the horizontal, up to 10 industrial robots and 4 pizzas. So basically we can produce 10 at point A, we're producing 10 industrial robots, 0 pizzas. So we have 10 industrial robots, no pizzas. We're producing all capital goods. We got nothing to eat. That's a problem, man. No pizzas whatsoever. On the other side, we're producing 4 pizzas, no industrial robots. At that point, we don't have much anything to make the pizzas. So we're making those things by hand on like stone fire, which a wood fired pizza is not that bad. A stone fired pizza is not that bad. But, there's just no real good way to make the stuff to make the pizza. So we prefer, and those are possible points, but we prefer something in the middle. Some mix of robots and some mix of pizzas. So B, C, or D. So, and just like before, a point on the curve is preferable to anything inside the curve, which is attainable. But any point inside the curve means that you are not using all of your resources. So if you are inside the curve, you can move out to the curve without sacrificing any pizzas or robots. If you are on the curve, to get more pizzas, you must give up robots, or to get more robots, you must give up pizzas. Note that W is an unattainable point. You cannot get anything outside the curve. You do not have enough resources today. Tomorrow, we may discover new technology. We may discover more resources, or we may discover them today and have them for tomorrow, whatever. But you cannot get that today. So that is the way that this works. Inside is attainable but not optimal. On the curve is optimal and attainable. Outside the curve is just unattainable. What is it with this? We have the law of increasing opportunity cost. As more of a particular good is produced, its marginal opportunity cost increases. So as we move along that curve, A to B to C to D to E, the reason it's kind of concave, we have that, the reason it's moving in that concave fashion, it is the law of increasing opportunity cost. Its marginal opportunity cost goes up. That's why it has that concave shape. So on that, if it is a straight line, and this, I said I'd mentioned this before, it means that the two goods or resources are interchangeable. Think cars and SUVs. you could easily switch from one to the other and not give up anything. I will put this econ movie in the class for you. It will explain a lot of that for you. A marginal analysis, the optimal output is where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. Marginal benefit's a downward sloping line. It looks like a demand curve. Marginal cost is an upward sloping line, which will look like a supply curve. The optimal output is where marginal benefit equals marginal cost, which in this case is point E at 10 and 200 quantity of pizza, 200,000 and 10 marginal benefit, marginal cost. So there you go. Unemployment growth in the future. So once again, back to this pizzas and robots. Let's say that we have an increase in technology or some other growth. We have economic growth over time, whatever. This may the curve may shift out. If it's just normal economic growth over time, it shifts out, and we're able to make more pizzas and more more industrial robots. We could have you notice that the pizzas kind of shifted proportionately more than the than the robots, but it is what it is. You could have specific shifts. Let's say that there was a increase in dough technology that does nothing for industrial robots. It would leave industrial robots at 10. It would shift pizzas out. If there was an increase in robot technology, some kind of conductor technology, semiconductor technology, that would still shift both of them out, because if you produce more robots, you should be able to produce, that would allow you to produce more pizzas, because robots are used in the production of pizzas, technically. That's the idea of them being a capital good. So understand that capital goods used in the production of consumer goods, if you move the capital good, that would produce more of the consumer good. But if it's a specific thing for the consumer good, it does not help the capital good. All right. So present choices, future possibilities, the current curve moving out for the future curve. And so, Presentville, Futureville here, and you could move it out way, if it's a massive shift, it could move it out a lot, could move it out just a little. It depends on what you do that makes that happen. So what kind of what kind of things do you do? And so you can see the points that we have there, P and F. Notice that P is more is more toward the goods for the present, and F is more toward the goods for the future. Basically, the capital goods point. And if you're making more capital goods, you're going to shift the curve out more than if you make more consumer goods. And this actually happened way back in the day, and it's happening to us now. But it happened back in the 50s with Russia, when we were doing when there was that whole space race, and there was that race to space and all of that with Russia. We were producing, they produced a lot of stuff very quickly, and they were out in front. But then we were producing they stopped and then started producing more and more consumer goods, because they had a massive population. USSR, not necessarily just Russia, but the Soviet Union. And they started producing more consumer goods and less capital goods, and we were producing capital goods at a steady rate. So we produced a lot of capital goods at a very steady rate, and that allowed us to overtake them. And we did this for roughly 30 years. We have not been producing capital goods at that rate for the last 35 years. So we do not produce capital goods at the same rate we used to, and that has led to some issues. They have started recently, the last 10 years or so, to realize that and try to start ramping that back up. So there's the plus side on that. All right, gross fixed capital formation as a percentage of national income. China, about 43%. South Korea, a little over 30%. India, over 25%. Sweden at 25%, France about 23%, Chile a little over 20%, U.S. just over 20%, Italy, um, what is that, about 18% or so, Brazil just over 15%, Jordan just over 10%, Sudan just over 5%, and Iraq somewhere around 3% maybe. International trade, you need to specialize in the thing that you do best, and we will, if you take micro, we will talk about that, but specialize in what you do best and focus on comparative advantage, and it would increase your production possibilities. So international trade is like discovering a new technology if done well. The last thing up, the pitfalls to sound economic reasoning, some common pitfalls to avoid in successfully applying the economic perspective. Avoid biases. And, in micro, we talk about this in behavioral econ. And even if you don't take that, look at behavioral econ. It's one of my favorite things ever. It's just so awesome. Avoid loaded terminology. The fallacy of composition. What's good for you and your buddies at home is probably not good for 300 million people. So the post hoc fallacy. Just because it happened after doesn't mean that it happened because of the correlation, but not causation. Um, just understand correlation isn't causation. So understand these kinds of things. That's it. Have a great day. This is the end of chapter 1. Take care. We'll see you in chapter 2, people.